Hi boys and girls! You guys have reached one of my all-time favorite lessons, and it's a real fun thing. Everybody is going to enjoy it, I promise. It's what I call a build a shape challenge, and it's a lesson on topography. So we live in Florida. It's pretty flat here. I haven't seen any mountains around here. If you do see one, let me know, because that would be concerning. But this lesson comes from a study of measuring how tall something is. And if you guys have ever looked at a map or a globe, sometimes they have different colors, meaning different heights of the land and different elevations. So in Florida, the best way I can tell you to study something like this is to look at the radar when we have thunderstorms. And you guys are going to see those maps are totally lit up with lots of different colors of how heavy it's raining. So if you see red, you know that's usually like a really heavy rain, and a color more like green or blue might be a lighter rain, and yellow is going to be somewhere in the middle. And they always have a funny shape because clouds, rain clouds, they're not going to be perfect little circles or perfect little squares, and we're going to be coming up with some of those own shapes today. So this build a shape challenge, we're going to use some like pieces of cardboard. You'll see what those are for later. And we're going to be using scrap paper. So I might just start with a little piece of red paper here, if that's my starting color. So this is going to be my smallest shape I can make. Now, if you make it so tiny that it's like as small as your fingernail, that's going to be really hard to get a piece of cardboard under. So I would say get your scissors, cut your cardboard as small as you're feeling comfortable to work with. And I'm gonna say my shape needs to be a little bit bigger than that piece of cardboard. I'm probably not gonna draw it right in the middle. And I'm just gonna come up with a Sharpie and I'm gonna just invent my shape. I kind of have a shape that looks like a blob. So that's my shape. And I'm going to be keeping this piece of cardboard around. I'm going to cut it out right here. Notice I didn't let you start with a pencil, but you can if you really want to. I just have a Sharpie here, so that's what I'm using. Boom. There's my shape. This paper can go to a friend or right back in the scrap bin or wherever you feel like putting it. Now I'm going to grab another color. You cannot pick the same color you just used. So for me, I'm going to pick pink. This happens to be a giant piece, but that's what I have. I am going to go and trace my shape, but I have to make it a little bit bigger than my original shape. Just a little bit bigger. So if you start tracing your shape and you're like, okay, there's my shape. You can see that this section is way bigger. This area looks a lot better. So don't do something like that. Instead, really pay attention and just make it a little bit bigger. You want to try to get the same shape that you had, but just enlarge it. So you go around the perimeter and just kind of use your eye to see, okay, does that look like I did a better job? Yes, yes it does. So what I'm gonna do is move this guy out of the way. Cut this baby out, staying on the lines as best I can because I remember I want my same shape. I just gotta get him a little bit bigger than he was. Now, if you start with a shape that's kind of boring, and I'm just gonna call some of you out because I know you'll do it, like a circle or something, then there's not a real challenge there. Figure out where it belongs. Okay, looks like mine belongs right there. Take your piece of cardboard. You're gonna make a little shape sandwich. You're gonna go ahead. If you wanna see the Sharpie side, that's fine. You don't have to see the Sharpie side. Okay, if you don't wanna see the Sharpie side, you're gonna be flipped to the other side. I don't mind seeing the Sharpie. It doesn't bother me at all. So I'm gonna go ahead, put this guy right where he belongs. Okay. Here's the back of my shape, 1 dot, piece of cardboard. Make sure your cardboard's not sticking out. We don't want to see it. It's just to stack it and make a little sandwich. Okay, pay attention to where you're going to put it. Center it up and press gently, and you're going to see that you've got your shape right where it belongs. And if I bring it up to the camera and turn it, you'll see that there is some cardboard right inside of it. So this is actually going to grow taller every time. So now it's time for my next color. If you're careful, this will be really easy to trace and make bigger every time. So I'm going to go with some orange. I'm kind of following the old color wheel. And this is going to get bigger every time. Do you guys see how this is going to grow? Well, I'm probably going to have to put another piece of cardboard underneath my pink later on. So let's cut this guy out. So the challenge is on, especially for my upper grades. I usually do this with 5th to see who can make the tallest, biggest, and most importantly, most stable shape. Now, if your shape looks sloppy, that's automatically going to disqualify you from any bonus points you're going to get from me. I don't want to see any sloppy people out there. So this is not a project you need to rush on. We can take a few days and really build these guys and make them pretty awesome. So that's where it's going to belong. This is where it's going to go. I can fit it right here. Boom. Put a dot here. Put a dot on the back side. Right in the middle. Make sure that you get it the way you want it. My little red guy got bumped. Boom. Here we go. Got a yellow piece here. So I wonder who's going to have the most layers. You guys can have a competition in your class. You could do class versus class. It's really up to you. Or it can just be a personal challenge. But once you get the hang of it, you're going to see the different layers starting to show up, and it looks really cool. When you get to a big enough piece, you might require 2 pieces of cardboard on the back. That might be something that you want. I think that might be something that I do. And you can cut your cardboard down to any size that you want, because remember, we don't want to see the cardboard popping out. So maybe your challenge that you want to do yourself is just to see if you can beat Mrs. Hopkins. That might be like your main goal in life. I get it. It might be fun to beat the art teacher. So I'm going to use 2 pieces, I think. One here. One over here. See if that'll fit pretty good. Oh yeah. Boom, boom. Now, when you're working with several layers and you guys have already put cardboard pieces on, you might notice they move a little bit. Like my pink one has moved a little bit. So you have to adjust a little bit. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. That might be a good stopping point for me for my first day of this project. And just make sure your name is put on this. So I would just make sure before I turned it in, you can use a Sharpie, that way you don't have to press very hard. And then put your class code, okay? So whatever class you're in, put your code on there, and we're gonna make sure that these go someplace safe. They probably are too small to go in the drying rack, even though they're all gluey. You're gonna have to make sure that we find a nice spot in the art room to put them, because this should be a project that takes you a couple days. Don't rush. They're not gonna look nice if you rush. So I'm gonna stop, I'm gonna add to it, and then I'll show you my final one, okay? As you can see, I have completed my Grow a Shape challenge. Okay, I have lots of layers of cardboard here, and you can kind of move it around as long as it's still wet, if you need to tweak it or turn it, and you can see we have lots of layers. I turn it here on the side, just show you all the different layers of cardboard I have. You can measure height. You can see who's got the biggest at your table, who has more surface area. So you could do a height versus area kind of thing. Who has their shape looking as much like the original, because if you look at my original, it has lots of bumps, and this one kind of has a big smooth side. So it's interesting to see how it changes as it grows, because a lot of the detail you end up losing. But these look really cool. You could mount them on a black piece of paper or take them home as is. So make sure your name somehow gets on the back of these. When they're dry, you can flip them over. If you're really quick, you can do it when they're still wet. Put your name on. Put your class code on. Be really careful when you're flipping them, or they fall apart. That's okay. It's a good lesson of getting 2 hands on there. Boom. Totally fixed it. Nobody should be crying. Anyway, have fun with this Grow Shape Challenge. Like I said, I recommend using the Elmer's glue. You're gonna use lots of cardboard chunks, and I'm sure that I will be collecting them for you, or your teacher will. Cardboard is pretty easy to find in the art room. Otherwise, if you can't find a piece of cardboard too small, you can always roll up a little piece of scrap paper. Something like this, make a little paper ball, and you can use that to help separate your layers too. I don't wanna see these all over the floor or you throwing them. Always use scissor safety. Don't be snapping. Most of you guys are in 4th and 5th grade who will be working on this project. You guys know how to use scissors and glue. So I can't wait to see your awesome shapes and how they grow with each layer. Of course, Ms. Hopkins had to use the old color wheels, starting with red and then with violet, Roy G. Biv, and all the colors in between. You may have to use a full-size sheet of paper before you're done with this. You might be starting off with scraps, but ending up using a full-size sheet. So just make sure you're not being wasteful. If you're using like a full-size sheet for a small piece, then that's kind of wasteful. We're not wasters. All right, good luck everybody. Do a great job.